Yes. Madam Speaker.
There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Order, honorable members. Before we proceed with today's business, I wish to announce that the vacancy which occurred in the National Assembly owing to the resignation of Mrs. E.R. Wilson has been filled by the nomination of Mrs. D. van der Walt with effect from the 1st of August 2023. Congratulations. Congratulations. Order, honorable members, honorable Chief Whip, order. Lastly, I wish to announce that the vacancy which occurred owing to the loss of membership of the National Assembly by Mr. W.M. Madisha, in terms of Section 473C of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, has been filled by the nomination of Mr. T. Luate with effect from the 16th of August 2023. Both members have made and subscribed the oath before the Speaker. I welcome you, honorable members, to the House. Welcome again. Order, honorable members. The only item on today's order paper is questions addressed to the President. There are 4 supplementary questions on each question. Parties have given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose a supplementary question. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. This was done to facilitate participation of members who are connecting to the sitting through the virtual platform. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness amongst others has been applied. If a member who is supposed to ask a supplementary question through the virtual platform is unable to do so due to technological difficulties, the party whip on duty will be allowed to ask the question on behalf of their member. When all the supplementary questions have been answered by the President, we will proceed to the next question on the order paper. The first question has been asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition. Point of order? Sorry, I missed that. Point of order?
Speaker, perhaps it would be apt through you if the House could perhaps stand for a moment of silence in commemoration of the over 70 people who died in the city of Johannesburg last week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kwahube. Honorable members, may we all rise in honor of those who've lost their lives. Thank you, honorable members. Once more, thank you. Thank you to you, Honorable Kwahube, for reminding us. Thank you. The first supplementary question, the first question has been asked by the leader of the opposition, Honorable Steenhuisen. And the president will then respond. I invite you, Honorable President. Proceed, Mr. President.
Honorable Speaker,
It's going to
honorable
be very
members,
quiet. It's peaceful, Mr. President. Proceed.
lifestyle audits of public servants have been compulsory since 2021. As at March 2023, over 11,000 public servants in national government have undergone lifestyle audits. This process of lifestyle audits for members of the executive is spearheaded by the Office of the Director General in the Presidency, who is also the Secretary of the Cabinet. The process was initially initiated towards the end of 2022. It had been preceded by a number of processes. Earlier this year, I sent letters to the Deputy President, ministers and deputy ministers, requesting their consent in writing to the process to ensure that the information obtained in a legitimate or is obtained in a legitimate manner, as well as legal manner. I received the same letter and signed by the Director General. Members of the executive, including myself, have submitted all these consent forms for the nationally driven process of lifestyle audits. The implementation of the lifestyle audit has been delayed to some extent by the change of service providers. It is anticipated that this project will be concluded in a short space of time. Thank you.
I thank you, Honorable President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, South Africans are suffering because your government is stealing. As you may know, News 24 has done extensive work exposing the secret luxury life and links of your Deputy President, Honorable Mashatile, in their series Mashatile Unmasked. The evidence suggests that the Deputy President's lavish lifestyle is far in excess of what his salaries are, and that he has been funded by people as beneficiaries of government contracts, including from Eskom. Clearly, his lifestyle is far in excess of what one would bring in as a Deputy President. And I find it odd, Mr. President, that you're talking about these delays. You promised us, people of South Africa, and this Parliament in 2018, that 6 years, that's a long time to deal with service providers, Mr. President. When do you expect the Deputy President's lifestyle audit to be completed? And what steps will you take to ensure that it is done effectively and efficiently? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
As I said, this matter is right on my radar screen. It is being attended to and addressed. And the delays have been occasioned by initially a process that would have led to a very superficial result, which I sent back and said, I want a more detailed process that would detail to us what our lifestyle is. It was then followed up, if I may inform you, by a much more extensive outline, which was very complicated, which would have resulted in even further delays. We've now required that a service provider who would be able to do the lifestyle audit much more efficiently, much more quickly, and the type of information that would come out would be sufficiently comprehensive as to be able to indicate precisely what each member of the executive has in the form of assets and debts and what have you, and how they are proceeding to deal with those. So that process is firmly underway now, and the Director General in the Presidency, who, as you might know, is the person who is also in charge of the various disclosures that members of the executive have to give. So the Director General is fully able and capable of leading this process, which she is doing, and her diligence in this regard is going to be quite thorough. Yes, I do regret the delay. It should not have been as long as it is, but the intent is there. Now, this process does not focus on any member of the executive solely. It focuses on all of us. So with regard to time frame, as I said in my reply in chief, I see this process being completed shortly. And once it has, the process will even be reported upon by the Director General. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable President. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Tim Gweba.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Mr. President. Dealing with lifestyle audits is a very sensitive matter, and government officials might not feel comfortable to submit their private information to the colleagues working in the same department. Would it be appropriate to submit and allow ethics officers to analyze information of their colleagues? And thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Member, Honorable the President.
Yes, lifestyle audits are processes that are very intrusive, that look into all manner of private matters that pertain to an individual's life, and as it is called, lifestyle. So one has to be very careful, indeed, that whatever information is given will be dealt with sensitively. And that is why in the executive, it is dealt with and is in the custody of the Director General in the Presidency, who is also Secretary of Cabinet, who is able to deal with this matter with the measure of confidentiality that it does require. When it comes to other public servants, that process is also clearly laid out as to how that will be done. And it's often not dealt with by direct colleagues, but by people who are given the task of dealing with sensitive matters like that. So we are very, Honorable Member, very, very aware of the sensitivity of this matter, and that is why we prefer to deal with it in the way that we are. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
I thank you, Honorable President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable E.M. Buthelezi.
Madam Speaker.
Honorable Hlengwa.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, South Africa ranks 72 out of 180 countries with corruption perception index of 43 out of 100. It's worth noting that the country digressed with 1 CPI point even after the release of the Zondo Commission report, which the President, we welcomed, of course, then the decision for the lifestyle audits, which could prove to be a helpful mechanism. But the issue, Mr. President, becomes about capacity, because the lifestyle audits must run parallel with the 2014 cabinet decision that all executives in SOEs and SCM practitioners must be vetted. The SSA does not have this capacity. For example, Transnet has submitted 755 applications to SSA since 2014, and only 93 have been received as a response from the SSA. The ESCOM former CEO, Mr. Derrida, left without being vetted. So, Mr. President, do you have a plan to respond to the deficiencies and challenges within the SSA? I'm confident that the lifestyle audit, which is currently underway, will actually be met and within the parameters of a functional process. Sengiyibuzela-ke njenengami, ubuyonzani eZimbabwe? Sengiyibuzela.
Hayi man, hlala phansi. Thank
eZimbabwe
you.
ubuyonzani?
You're done now. You've raised your question. Honorable President, I'm sorry before I allow you to speak. Honorable Siwela, will you please mute your gadgets? Thank you. The Honorable the President, ungayiphenduli ke leya Zimbabwe.
Honorable Speaker and Honorable Hlengwa. Yes, the process of vetting has been indicating that it takes too long. And you're absolutely right that other people finally leave the public service without having been vetted, because the whole process that even SSA gets involved in is quite involved and intricate. I was discussing it with the minister and the presidency minister, Nchaveni, who is responsible for SSA. And that matter is being looked at as to how that process can be capacitated better and how it can also be speeded up. I am one of those who sees the delays in vetting people being quite detrimental to our public service, because we need to know much earlier the standing of those that we employ, whether they are able to execute their tasks with the integrity that we require of them. So it is a matter that even the minister is addressing and attending to. Thank you very much for raising it. The one on Zimbabwe, as you well know, the speaker has just said that that is a subject matter that needs to be addressed at a different time when the question is properly posed. But I'm willing to inform you outside of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable President. Only because Honorable Hlengwa, it's not linked to the question which was raised. Thank you. Thank you very much. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable W.M. Thring.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Mr. President, at the beginning of your presidency, you announced lifestyle audits for cabinet ministers to reassure the public of your administration's bold stance against corruption. This was a preemptive move, as over time the Zondo Commission would reveal the extent of undue executive interference in the running of public institutions and state-owned entities for personal gain by some members of the executive. To date, however, only officials in provincial and national government are subjected to lifestyle audits and not the said ministers. And in the process, corruption continues. Now, Mr. President, in order to ensure the successful implementation of lifestyle audits across the board, could you unpack the scope of these audits in terms of its resource-intensive capacity, implementation of law enforcement, privacy rights, as well as the presumption of innocence until proven guilty? Thank you.
I thank you, Honorable Twing. The President.
Thank you very much. Let me dispel the notion that only public servants are being subjected to lifestyle audits. As I said then, and I say it now, members of the executive are also being subjected to lifestyle audits. And when we subject them to lifestyle audits, obviously, as I indicated earlier, we've got to go through a process. And as an honorable member said here, they are quite intrusive. They get into the type of private details of members' lives that we've got to implement proper processes that will arrive at a type of conclusion that we would like to see. And as a result, we look at the process, and indeed, we also want to look at how that will be implemented. And of course, the presumption of innocence is an overriding issue. We underpin everything on the presumption of innocence until something that may well show that there is no innocence comes up. And the lifestyle audits are meant to do precisely that. And in the end, they are a good governance measure that is aimed at ensuring that all of us who serve our people as members of the executive do so with diligence, with integrity, and with an adherence to the morals that our people would expect of us. So that process is underway, and even as we initiated it, and I do regret the delay, we expected that we would like to get to a point where we have clean government and we have leaders in government who are going to be able to demonstrate indeed that they are not in government to serve their own personal interests, but the interests of our people. That's precisely what this is aimed at. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable the President. Honorable members, question number 14 has been asked by the Honorable J. Hermanus. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, South Africa has experienced significant benefits through its membership as well as its association with the BRICS grouping of countries. South Africa uses its BRICS membership to improve investment, to improve trade, tourism, as well as capacity building. And it also flows into skills, acquisitions, and technological capabilities that we see this relationship yielding for our country. Strengthening economic as well as financial ties between BRICS member countries is one of the key pillars of this cooperation that we have forged with all these countries. In 2020, the countries adopted the strategy for BRICS economic partnership to increase access to each other's markets, to promote mutual trade, investment, and to create a business-friendly environment for investors in all BRICS countries. South Africa's overall trade with its BRICS partners has increased by an average of 10% every year over the period 2017 to 2021. Total South African trade with other BRICS countries reached 830 billion rand in 2022, which represents an increase of more than 70% from 487 in 2020. billion rather, in 2017. BRICS, therefore, is an important source for us of foreign direct investment in key areas such as mining, automotive, transportation, clean energy, financial services, IT, telecommunications, and many other areas. These investments and projects lead to significant job creation, and we've seen that across our country. Furthermore, the BRICS Business Council and the BRICS Women's Business Alliance bring together important commercial networks that promote trade and investment partnerships amongst BRICS countries. In 2015, BRICS countries launched the New Development Bank to finance and support largely infrastructure and sustainable development projects. This was an inspired development, and may I say that it was also inspired by South Africa. To date, the New Development Bank has provided funding to 12 projects in South Africa to the value of 100 billion rand. I wish it was as big as that. Our membership of BRICS makes a valuable contribution to the implementation of our economic recovery and reconstruction plan. For example, growing tourism industry is one of the priorities of the plan. The BRICS countries are becoming increasingly important tourism markets for our country. In terms of supporting energy security in South Africa, another pillar of our recovery plan, BRICS countries have the expertise, the technology, as well as the full know-how to support energy cooperation. In 2020, BRICS adopted a roadmap for BRICS energy cooperation up to 2025, aimed at building a strategic partnership in energy cooperation. Our infrastructure investments, Honorable Speaker, which is another pillar of our recovery plan, we will continue to access funding from the NDB. The inclusion of Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, as well as the UAE, as new members, will strengthen beneficial cooperation with South Africa in a number of ways. These countries will enhance economic partnership in key sectors to boost the economic growth also in our own country. So the BRICS membership is a very important aspect of our own economic interaction with other countries in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable the President. I've been informed that the Honorable S.H. Mbuyane will take charge of the first supplementary question on behalf of the Honorable J. Hermanus, in accordance with Rule 13710A. I now recognize the Honorable S.H. Mbuyane.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Thanks, President, for a comprehensive response. Honorable President, the recent BRICS Summit and also the BRICS outreach program has brought forward for a significant development for a BRICS partnership with the economically developed countries. Honorable President, I just wanted to check the value of the new partners brings to the development of the South African economy in terms of the economic recovery plan. Thank you very much.
Honorable President.
Honorable Speaker, as I was indicating, we expect that our trade links, our investment participation with all these additional countries is going to go up a number of decibels. It's going to go up a number of notches as well. We expect enormous growth when it comes to even an area such as tourism, because it is when countries feel that they are in a club, as it were, that members of a club, that the affinity between countries or amongst countries then grows even broader and bigger. So in economic terms, all these new additional countries are big players. And on the horizon are a number of other countries that have indicated their willingness to be part of BRICS, and they too will be considered in the next phase. So this was the first phase, and thereafter there will be another phase. And we obviously will look at the economic value in terms of participation for all of us as BRICS members. So for us, these additional countries will be boosting our economic recovery and reconstruction plan, and we expect great benefits from all this. The benefits for our country as BRICS members has been very clear right from the beginning. It has led to enhanced activity amongst ourselves and all these countries. So being a BRICS member does contribute a great deal to economic growth as well. So our ERRP will definitely be boosted as the other new members come in and participate with us. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I thank you, Honorable the President. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Economics aside, Mr. President, the new entrants to BRICS, Iran and Saudi Arabia, have a sickening disregard for women's rights or gender equality, denying girls and women the basic freedoms and legal rights, and excluding them virtually entirely from public life. By aligning South Africa with the so-called members of your club, you're standing with autocrats and dictators while sacrificing the principles enshrined in our own constitution. Let's be clear, this is not about human rights or what BRICS can do for South Africa. This is about what BRICS, and specifically Russia, can do for the ANC. It's the same reason you attended Emerson Mnangagwa's inauguration. You're willing to give false legitimacy
Order, honorable
to
members.
ZANU-PF because you know full well that your own party is following in their footsteps. Mr. President, do you care nothing about the suffering and deprivation experienced by women of Iran and Saudi Arabia and the people of Zimbabwe who are now shackled with an illegitimate election which your own SADC region has cast aspersions on? Thank you.
I thank you, Honorable Leader of the Opposition Party. And I do want to request you that you make a submission at some point and request for a debate on that matter of women in these different countries you have mentioned. But it's up to the Honorable President to take the question. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, our association with a number of countries in the world is based on our own policies. We make it very clear that our foreign policy is based on a number of principles, one of those being human rights. And in associating with various countries, we do not have a holier than thou type of approach. We actually communicate very clearly what our policies are, and through exchanging views, through outlining what our own positions are and our principles and values, we hope and trust and work for also a deep understanding of our views, and also hope and work for them to be able to see what It means to adhere to universal values, such as those enshrined in the UN Declaration of Rights. And this one is able to do when you interact with people. This one is able to do when you exchange views with them. This one is able to do when they actually see the extent of what your principles and values are. And as we have discussions with them, we find that they get to appreciate the real import and importance of our own values, be they democratic values, be they human rights values, be they even economic values. And this, Honorable Speaker, is a trajectory that we have embarked upon. Are we able to have influence? I do believe that we are. As people understand what we stand for. And this we are able to do, Honorable Speaker, even to those who believe that they are the oldest and best democracies in the world. We are even able to impart the import of our values to so-called more advanced nations in the world. The Europeans, the Americans, they learn a lot from us. And we will not stop from showcasing what our values are and what human rights that we have in this country are all about. So shying away from other countries, which has never really been our foreign policy thrust. We are friends with all countries in the world. We are enemies of none. And so therefore, those who would want us to be enemies of other countries really are knocking at the wrong door. We impart our values to others. And if you did care, Honorable Steenhuisen, to travel with us around the world and interact with those people that we meet, you will see the influence and the impact that South Africa has and the respect that South Africa is given by other countries around the world. And it is largely because of what we stand for. And we are never shy, never hold back from articulating what we stand for. We are South Africans. We are driven by human rights, and we subscribe to that. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable the President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable F.J. Mulder. Order. Honorable Mulder, you may proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable President. While recognizing the advantage of the expansion of South Africa's trade horizons with BRICS and the wealth of natural, mineral, and cultural resources our country has to offer, one should also consider the dominance of China, unbalanced economic structures of member states, and the fact that South Africa is the weakest link in economic and technological development, with the least gross domestic product of $356.84 billion, and ranked number 37 globally compared to China, Russia, Brazil, and India. My question to the Honorable President would be, do the President agree that South Africa has limited power for an assertive and independent position in this group that could erode South Africa's domestic economy, because many products from BRICS countries directly compete with those in South Africa? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mulder. The Honorable the President.
We may well be the smallest in terms of population amongst the current BRICS members. And yes, our economy is the smallest of all these BRICS countries currently, but we are highly regarded were highly placed. And the fact that our trade with all these countries has grown exponentially, and that our exports to China, be it on the agricultural side, and that too is about to go up a number of billions, means that they see us as an important player. And we are the most industrialized country on the African continent. We are the one country on the African continent that is able to manufacture the type of goods that they too would need, much as we import from them as China. Our dealings, for instance, with Brazil are still at the nascent level. And when we begin to trade more seriously with President Lula da Silva now in power and wanting to interact economically more and more with Africa, we are going to see our exports as well, yes, our exports growing with those countries. So much as we are smaller by population, and we often say that, yes, maybe we are boxing way above our weight level, but we are seen, and indeed we are a very important player, not only in the terms of Africa, but in the global South. In the global South, South Africa is seen as an important player, and we are actually an important player, and we are not arrogant about it. We do not throw our small weight around, but we do know that when we do speak, a number of countries do listen. When we do act, they do look, and that is the position that South Africa has today.
I thank you. Are you done, Honorable President? Honorable President. Okay, thank you very much. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable A.M. Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Allow me to apologize for not being physically in the House. I'm not well. But, Mr. President, allow me to congratulate you on one of the most successful and remarkable BRICS. Are you there? Can you hear me, Honorable Speaker?
Yes, you are very audible, Honorable.
Allow me to congratulate you on one of the most remarkable BRICS summits ever held. Now, Mr. President, I am not expecting you to be surprised at the comments from my predecessors. You can see they are restless, they have anxiety, because for the first time in the world, there might be peace, security, prosperity. But what stood up for me, Mr. President, is when you made a statement and the interest you showed particularly for the African continent. Could you tell us, we say that the country belongs to all who live in it, the wealth of the country belongs to the people. And this is what my colleagues have just forgotten, that the mineral wealth of this country currently is owned by the West. How do we intend dealing with this so South Africans and Africans at large can benefit more from the wealth of their respective countries? And I know you addressed the issue also about finished goods instead of selling raw materials.
Thank you, Honorable Sheikh. The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Sheikh. Yes, indeed. More and more of us as African countries on the continent are beginning to look more introspectively at how the people of our continent can benefit more from the mineral wealth that is beneath the African soil. And with this in mind, all of us are now saying we would like to be exporting finished products rather than just rock and sand and dust. And that's precisely what we are now seeking to achieve. And interestingly, Even some of those countries that have had ownership of our minerals and are exploiting them are now beginning to awaken to the reality that it is no longer sustainable for us as Africans just to be exporting rock and soil, and that we now need to move to another level where if you extract minerals out of our soil, you should also be able to set up a process where those minerals are processed. We had a conversation amongst premiers just a few days ago, and the premier of the Northern Cape, where our country has a lot of minerals from manganese to iron ore and many others. And he was saying, we need to be seeing more and more benefit, because he would like to get us to a point where, yes, we now export more finished products. And all of us subscribe to that. And we now want to move in that direction. What is it going to take? It's going to take us in, yes, attracting investments into our country, but also saying to those investors, as you wish to invest in all extractive sectors of our economy, we would like the downstream aspect as well. So it should almost be like twin investments. But we've also suggested that on our African continent, we should have something like a minerals commission, so that all of us as Africa should more or less have universal policies or policies that we all agree on how we deal with the endowments that we have with regards to minerals. And we will all recall how our own mining industry started here. Our own mining industry started off with Europeans coming to South Africa, coming to invest, and the wealth that truly belongs to the people of South Africa has been taken out. It's now in Europe or in the Northern Hemisphere. We do need to reverse that. The wealth of our country must remain in our country, and if we do make products, we must make well-finished products to be exported. We are now going to see a new revolution, and it's a revolution that even young people are talking to. And the time for that has now arrived. We must start manufacturing finished products from our own minerals for export to other countries. This is now the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable President. Question number 15, honorable members, has been asked by the Honorable S.M. Jafta. The Honorable the President.
The judiciary is an essential part of our democratic order, as we all know. The Constitution clearly states that the courts are independent and subject only to the Constitution and the law, which they must apply impartially without fear or favor or prejudice. I have often spoken out publicly and loudly against attacks on the judiciary. Unless supported by evidence, such claims that attack the judiciary undermine the confidence in our courts and weaken our constitutional order. The constitutional guarantees of freedom of expression and opinion are acknowledged and appreciated in a free country. However, these freedoms should not undermine our constitutional order, as this may lead to the erosion of trust in the judiciary. Section 165(3) of the Constitution says, no person or organ of state may interfere with the functioning of the courts. We interfere with the functioning of the courts and weaken the rule of law when we, without evidence, attack the judiciary. Anyone who feels aggrieved by the conduct of any member of the judiciary is entirely free to approach any of the relevant bodies to lodge a complaint. In the cases of judges, this body is the Judicial Services Commission, and in the case of magistrates, it is the Magistrates Commission. If the grievance is about a court's decision, there are processes of review or appeal that are available and enshrined in our constitutional order. The Chief Justice is tasked with the development, the implementation, the monitoring of the norms and standards applicable to the judiciary, and therefore, the Chief Justice can also be approached to ensure that the norms and the standards are adhered to. All the citizens of South Africa are enjoined to respect, to uphold, to protect, and to promote our Constitution, as well as the rule of law, by respecting and protecting the judicial authority of our courts. This, Honorable Speaker, is important to ensure that our constitutional democracy continues to thrive and serve all the people of South Africa. I thank you.
I thank you, Honorable President. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S.M. Jafta.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Given your answer, Honorable President, what concrete steps are you likely to put into motion to support the judicial arm of government, especially in light of the criticism by the Chief Justice in recent judgment involving the appointment of the DPPs of Mpumalanga and the Northern Cape, where you were accused of failing to fill these two vacant posts for over a year? According to the Chief Justice, the President took about a year from February 2018 to March 2019 to apply his mind, and then expected the courts to apply its mind over a matter which the President could have acted on timorously. What concrete steps, therefore, are you likely to put into motion to support the work of the judicial and stop delegating your constitutional duties to the courts, which ordinarily fall under your purview? Thank you.
Honorable Jafta, the President.
Those matters where there have been lapses in terms of time and delays are matters that we are going to be discussing when the executive interacts or meets with the judiciary, which we have done in the past, where we are able to sit and discuss matters that are germane to the work that we both do as the two arms of the state. So the issue of these appointments and also reliance on the judiciary for certain appointments is a matter that we are going to discuss. So your direct question, what are we going to do? We're going to interface with the judiciary, but at the same time, we will be acting in accordance with our Constitution to ensure that whatever needs to be acted in terms of that constitutional order is implemented. The executive has a very healthy relationship with the judiciary, and whenever there are issues, we are able to meet. For administrative processes, the Ministry of Justice and Correctional Services does interface with the judiciary at close range. And of course, there are various other proposals that are on the table to ensure that the judiciary does have maximum support in the execution of its own work and has the requisite independence to be able to execute its work. And these are matters that are on the table for deeper and further discussion between ourselves and the judiciary. So all shall be well between the executive and the judiciary. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable President. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable A. Ramulubeng.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. President, Without an efficient, effective, and independent judiciary, the country would face serious challenges of misgovernance. As head of the executive arm of state, what is being done to balance the tensions which sometimes exist and to strengthen relations between the executive and the judiciary whilst adhering to the judicial independence? I thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. And we hear it's your birthday. Happy birthday. We wish you well. Wish you well. The Honorable the President.
Oh, I see.
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I did not know that it's also your birthday, Honorable Singh. Had I been told in advance, as I often do with members of the executive, we would have made sure that there are chocolates that come from Ghana, which are some of the best chocolates that there is. So next time, it's not too late. No, Moscow does not have lovely chocolates, Mr. Sienhazen. But there are things that if you want from Moscow, we'll bring for you as well. Honorable Speaker.
Proceed, Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, yes. As I was saying earlier, answering Honorable Jafta's question, the relationship between the judiciary and the executive is a good relationship. It's a relationship that is based on the terms of our constitution, but it's also a relationship that is based on deep respect for the work that we do as arms of the executive. So that lays a very good foundation in ensuring that the constitutional order in our country is well balanced and it functions well. And we respect the independence of the judiciary. And one of the proposals on the table that we are going to be discussing with the judiciary is how best we can enrich and confirm the efficacy of that independence. Because the executive has no wish whatsoever to interfere with the work of the judiciary. It has no wish whatsoever to stop the judiciary from executing its task. If anything, our overriding wish is to ensure that the judiciary continues to do its work in whatever way, and to have the independence, the requisite independence that it needs. So there's a discussion that is underway, and that's going to culminate in our meeting together with the judiciary to button this down, to make sure that we do our support as the executive and as the state enables the judiciary to continue doing its work. This is something that we find sacrosanct, and it's irrevocable on our side, the support that we should give our judiciary. So it will be done. Thank you.
I thank you, Honorable President. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The best way to defend the judiciary is to uphold the rule of law and implement the findings of the judiciary. And no one has done more to undermine the rule of law than you and the ANC. In fact, you've twisted yourself into a pretzel to avoid accountability for the ANC. But last month, Mr. President, you plumbed a new low when you released Jacob Zuma after he spent less than 2 hours in prison for gross contempt of court because he showed the middle finger to the rule of law and the Chief Justice. And you released him in the most disingenuous way, Mr. President, the guise of special remission. You released over 9,400 convicted criminals just to buy cover to let a single man walk free. About 6,500 of these criminals will go back to criminality, and you know it. Do you feel comfortable, Mr. President, that innocent citizens will now suffer just because you again put the interests of the ANC ahead of the rule of law. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Steenhuisen. The Honorable, the President.
Honorable Speaker, our constitution is very clear in terms of the rules it sets out for processes such as granting pardons, granting remission, and even in this instance, when we granted a remission to 9,000 people who had been sentenced, it was not in contravention of our constitution. It was very much in line with what our constitution says. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable the President. The last question. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, please. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable N. Singh.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think I'll have to ask an easy question, not only because the Honorable President wished me happy birthday, but in anticipation of those chocolates. So that's why it's going to be an easy question. Honorable President, I think you must have heard of the saying, all for one and one for all. And I think it happened during the time of the Three Musketeers in the 1800s, when they showed solidarity with each other. Now, I'm not in any way suggesting that those that head the arms of state are the Three Musketeers, meaning yourself, Chief Justice Zondo, and the Honorable Speaker. But what I would like to know, Honorable President, you've mentioned the fact that you've had meetings, but are there regular meetings that are set down in your diary between the three arms of state, the heads of the three arms of state, to discuss matters of the state? Because sometimes what we read, and I've got an article here written by a respected judge of the High Court, criticizing the way certain legal officers and judges and others conduct themselves in court. So I just want to know the country to be assured that you do meet on a regular basis, other than when there are crises that we have to deal with. Thank you, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. The Honorable the President.
There's always the desired, Honorable Speaker.
Actually, sorry, Mr. President, you are right for raising this matter which you are raising. Because I've been hearing this, there are no puppies here. They are honorable members, and we should stop doing that. Such signs are not allowed. There are no puppies in this house. They are honorable members. Thank you. You may proceed, Honorable President. Proceed, Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. There are meetings that happen between and amongst ourselves as organs of the state. They may not be as programmed as you have suggested, that on certain times these meetings should take place, and they tend to be issue specific, where we have to deal with certain matters and issues. And we have now felt that there is a need to programmatize all these interactions, and that there should also be a joint meeting of all the arms of the state, so that they are not just side shows or side meetings. So as you also suggest now, that is in train, that is something that is going to be happening, because it will demonstrate how healthy our state is. And it will also demonstrate that all the arms of the state are able to deal with matters of state and to be proactive when it comes to various matters, and also be able to deal with sensitive matters, matters that may be troubling the people of South Africa as well, within the confines of the areas that the Constitution allocates to each arm of the state. So thank you very much for restating that. And that is something that is going to be unfolding more often. Thank you.
Thank you, the Honorable the President. We now proceed to question number 16 asked by the Honorable Gava. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, in the design of our democracy in relation to the unitary nature of our state, we introduce cooperative governance to ensure that the three spheres of our government work together to meet the needs of our people. Each sphere of government has its own constitutionally assigned responsibilities, duties, and powers. And when it functions, it should function without encroaching on the functions and duties of the other arm. Chapter 3 of our Constitution requires all spheres of government to cooperate with one another in mutual trust and good faith by, amongst others, fostering friendly relations and assisting and supporting one another. Importantly, the Constitution says that all spheres of government must secure the well-being of the people of South Africa as a whole. The district development model is geared towards improving as well as strengthening the intergovernmental relations system as an approach towards giving effect to the constitutional principles of cooperative governance that are enshrined in our Constitution. The DDM, as we call it, approach has made great strides in ensuring that principles of cooperative governance guide how we plan, how we budget or craft our budgets, and implement key government programs and projects across the country. This is demonstrated through the presidential Imbizos and implementation of key catalytic projects identified in the intergovernmental long-term one plans. The experiences to date on the implementation of the DDM have placed greater emphasis on the requirements to undertake a review and relook at the policy instruments framing and guiding our system of intergovernmental relations, and moreover, the cooperative governance process. We have therefore embarked on a comprehensive review, amongst others, of the Intergovernmental Relations Framework Act of 2005 to ensure that the different spheres of government work in a joined-up manner. They also work in a coordinated fashion to secure the well-being of the people of South Africa. Now, this is perhaps the most comprehensive review because it also goes on to look at those processes, those laws and regulations that may be a constraint to how we should execute what our people require, be it in form of service delivery, be it in the implementation of projects, also be it in the expenditure of our budgets. So the review, and we had a wonderful meeting with premiers this past week, is going to lead us to streamlining the processes that we get involved in government so as to make the execution of various interventions and programs a lot easier and better. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable President. The Honorable Kava.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President. Your response emphasizes that although The three spheres of government are distinctive. They exist within a unitary South Africa, and that they have to assist one another, plan together, and cooperate, particularly in functions that cut across the spheres, provide citizens with a full basket of services. Local government plays a central role in this process through, amongst other things, its integrated development plans. The recent standoff between the city of Cape Town and was unnecessary. It was the politics of brinkmanship on the part of the city authorities that regretfully resulted in the death of 5 people and the disruption in the economy and the education of our learners, and a sign of weak leadership. Having said that, Mr. President, noting the importance of local government in this cooperative arrangement, how does the government plan to capitalize on the principle of cooperative governance to strengthen local government capacity and address leadership challenges as identified in the recent AG report? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Kaba, and the Speaker is relieved by the House Chairperson. Thank you. Don't mislead. Thank you. The Honorable the President.
Honorable House Chair, the processes that we've now embarked upon of strengthening and deepening intergovernmental relations will lead us to the point where we are able to have local government entities that are able to respond to the needs of our people, particularly service delivery needs. For example, the meeting that we had recently with our premiers and our metro mayors is going to enhance that whole process. We are also going to follow that up with a meeting with our local government mayors as well. And the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Leaders has developed and is developing a template that is going to enable us to see how best the implementation of our intergovernmental relations is unfolding, as well as be able in almost real time, be able to see how the various projects in our local government spheres, in line with their IDPs, being implemented. So we are in line with what the AG has reported on. We're going to be able to see how best we also support our local government entities that are going through a number of challenges and problems. We are also going to be able, from a national point of view, to support and assist our local government entities when it comes to those areas of delivery, particularly when it comes to water, as well as electricity, roads, and where they do not have capacity, to assist and support them to have capacity, and where there is slow movement and, as it were, even reluctance to do what is right by our people, we will be able to utilize precepts of our laws to be able to nudge them forward, even to take over those processes where there are weaknesses. So that is the way we are now going to proceed, and not leave local government entities as independent islands. The process of intergovernmental cooperation is now going to be put to full effect so that we are seen as one government. There should never be a situation where one entity acts on its own as though it's an island or some independent state. We are one government, we are a unitary state, and we are going to be insisting that as a unitary state, we do things for the interest of all South Africans, not a section of South Africa. That's the trajectory that we are on now. Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, the Honorable the President. The next follow-up will come from the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I'm very glad that you've said that the whole point of cooperative governance is that the three spheres of government should cooperate to produce the best possible outcome for the people of South Africa. To best keep people safe, the DA has for a very long time been calling for the devolution of policing powers to local and provincial governments. Despite your government's best attempts to prevent and not devolve any policing powers at all to the DA-run Western Cape or the city of Cape Town, we are doing everything that we can to keep the people safe in their best interest. The LEAP program has put over 1,200 LEAP officers into crime hotspots. And this is why crime is coming down in the Western Cape, even as it goes up in the rest of South Africa. Murder rates here are down 14% year on year. Rape rates here are down 10% year on year. Devolution works. It saves lives. Viva la devolution. Why is your government refusing to give more policing powers to local and provincial government, even though it has demonstrated that it can save lives?
Honorable Steenhuisen, let me remind you, I gave you time, but we know what Rule 1425 says about follow-up questions. Please. Proceed. Thank you, Honorable President.
Honorable House Chair, I think my answer could be a very simple one. And I'm glad to hear that Honorable Steenhuisen has now taken to liking slogans. Because the slogan I would give him would be Viva la Cooperation. It is where we cooperate. Yeah, where we cooperate and where the national government, provincial and local government cooperate, where we support one another, each sphere of government. Now, those who call for this type of devolution are essentially saying, we want to be separate. We want to be cessationist. We want to be completely different. Now, when looked at in the way, and I'll give you a very good example, in the way that Gauteng is doing a number of things. Because Gauteng is also, as a province, confronted with enormous challenges. They've got 15 million people. And where they have 15 million people, their tasks and their challenges are much more enhanced. And how are they approaching everything? They're approaching everything in full cooperation with the national government. And as they do so, they are implementing a number of measures where national government is supportive from the local government level to the provincial level, and they're coming up with a number of initiatives that are supported at national level. So they are not seeking to say, we want to be completely separate, we want, to have the devolution because we are different, we are separate. They say, we are part of the unitary state and we want support and cooperation from the national government. And that is the way to go. And viva la cooperation rather than viva the devolution. Thank you.
Thank you, the Honorable President. The next follow-up will come from the Honorable Kwankwa.
House Chair, thank you very much. President, andifuna ukukhumsha. Nansi ingxaki ngelaa xesha lesi strike soonoteksi. Abantu bakweelokishi zaseKapa, kwaLanga, eGugulethu, eKhayelitsha, eDelft bebephila besoyika bengakwazi ukuphuma ezindlini. Because firstly, they were failed dismally by the Democratic Alliance government. Engakwazanga ukuthi xa ine-dispute noonoteksi iqiniseke ukuthi abantu ba-safe in fact, law enforcement in the majority of instances, ebekapa buses got Golden Arrow into townships. But kungaqiniseka there was law enforcement, abantu ba protected. Pregnant women walked from Cape Town to Khayelitsha. Others are physically challenged to walk to Gugulethu. Abantu bethu bebesokola throughout that period. And I visited all the hotspots. But now there was a blame game between Nina and the provincial government and the city of Cape Town, to the extent where the minister even said the city is defined itself outside the parameters of national laws. And it implemented penalties
Your
that
time
are.
is up. Please pose the question. Thank you.
The question is, when city was defined out of the parameters of TED, what were those parameters? And what are you going to do to ensure that doesn't happen in future? Because it happens every year.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, even those that are coming, I reminded Honorable Steenhuisen about Rule 142.5. Please, let's stick to that. The Honorable, the President.
Honorable Nkwankwa, kutheni ungathethi ngolimi abazoluva aba bantu? Uthi awufuni ukukhumsha. Kodwa bafanele ukuthi bayive lento uyithethayo.
I can repeat it in English, but
No, please.
Xesha lakho limkile. Honorable Nkwankwa, yes, there did appear to be, and there was a difference in approach between the national government and the provincial government, as well as the local government, which I found to be most unfortunate, because there was a discord between what the Minister of Transport was saying are the rules, and also what the local government was insisting on. And in that whole process of debate and dispute, I think we lost a great opportunity for being able to deliver a very good outcome to the people of Cape Town, particularly in the townships, and all townships for that matter. And it would have been through proper negotiations. And negotiations in terms of negotiating disputes are very hard. They are not easy. Even as during a dispute, you talk about parameters and what those parameters are. It is not often easy. And the parameters are clearly laid out in national legislation, in national regulations, and the applicability thereof needs to be the same throughout the country. And there was a very strong view that when it came to Cape Town, the applicability thereof was different. And in the end, as it appeared that so many taxis were being impounded, almost running into thousands for 6,000, you say, for infractions that could have been dealt with through either fines or warnings and so forth. And that is what would have happened if the national regulations and prescripts were adhered to. And those type of matters needed to be discussed. They needed to be properly discussed without any of the role players were talking past each other. We're now pleased that that is now behind us. What now needs to happen is that the various parties now need to sit down and clearly define what the rules are, the regulations are, as well as the parameters, and where the powers at local government are and at national government are. Because it is when this is clarified that we will be able to have a much better manner of managing transport. And we know that local government has to have the ability to manage transport and traffic within its confines. And therefore, they need to be given the authority, but that should hang from a national legislation, because they cannot make themselves independent outside of the national laws of our country. So I do hope that happens as we go on. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, President. The Honorable Hendricks will ask the final supplementary question.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable House Chair, when bills are passed in Parliament, it goes for vetting to the Council of Provinces. Should not similar checks and balances be put in place for provincial bills and bylaws? Cabinet slammed the Powers Bill of the Western Cape Legislature. I'm asking, Honorable President, are you now going to charge the Premier with treason, as though that bill is a secessionist and a DA federal plan and non-compliant with the Constitution? Or will you attend the inauguration of Premier Windy, where he becomes the President of the 55th State of Africa? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the President.
Honorable Hendricks, I had the great pleasure of having Premier Windy in a meeting of the Presidential Council, coordinating council where provinces, particularly through premiers, participate. And I did not have any inkling whatsoever that he could be a good candidate to be charged for treason, because he spoke in a very cooperative manner, and he spoke in a very innovative way. He came up with a number of innovations, but also realizing the challenges that face not only the province but our country. So I thoroughly enjoyed. I hope I'm not giving him up for punishment in the DA. I found him to be most congenial and most cooperative. So I will not be attending his inauguration as whatever you said of the state of Africa, because there shall be no such a state. He will continue in the position that he's in and might even find there's a different outcome, which puts him elsewhere. But thank you very much.
Thank you. We now proceed to question number 17, asked by the Honorable Direko. The Honorable the President.
Honorable House Chair, and honorable members, the presidential Imbizos provide a balanced approach to resolving community challenges by providing immediate responses to specific problems that our people face, documenting and tracking of key resolutions emanating from the Imbizos are part of the design of this Imbizo process. Quarterly implementation reports indicate that measurable progress is being made in addressing the challenges that our people would have identified, which are done in an intergovernmental manner. The various intergovernmental platforms established through the Imbizo protocols are also tasked to address challenges where those occur. The district development model, political champions are assigned for each district and metro in our country and are tasked to provide regular updates, not just to the established intergovernmental platforms but also to the respective communities. The Imbizos have further unlocked key service delivery interventions. These interventions often range from road maintenance projects to the provision of title deeds to tackle things that many may regard as simple and straightforward, like stock theft. Through the Imbizo, we have further identified opportunities for skills development in key sectors of our economy, such as in mining and in agriculture. Through the information and contribution collected during the various Imbizos that I've been at, it has been possible to identify interventions that are required in many localities across our country. The benefit of these engagements therefore extend way beyond the communities in which they take place, as they are able to improve service provision more generally. And so the Imbizo program that we have reinvigorated is proving to be beneficial and is a process through which we also seek to bring government closer to our people, where our people are able to interface not only with the president, but also with ministers and deputy ministers, as well as premiers and MECs and mayors and other important functionaries in the state system. They are proving to be real beacons of giving our people great hope for the type of service delivery that we are talking about. Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, President. The Honorable Direko.
Modulus Tulowanto. Your Excellency, Imbizos are very critical to close the social distance between our people and the executive and solving the challenges that are impacting in their lives from various communities. So my question to you is that what are the key areas that you have identified requiring systematic intervention drawing from your engagement with the Imbizos?
Thank you. The Honorable the President.
Honorable House Chair, the areas that require intervention are many. Our people often comment that we can see what government is doing, and that government is doing its level best to address our needs. And obviously the issue of jobs comes up quite often. The issue of service delivery on issues such as health, for instance, clinics and hospital access there too, even things as simple as the availability of ambulances at the right time. They often raise issues of crime in the areas where they live and often raise the issue of police and wishing and wanting the police to be more compassionate and be responsive to the criminality that they face in their environments. Yes, they do raise issues of service delivery, such as housing, such as water, such as sewage challenges that they face. So the issues are quite widespread. In some of our more agricultural or rural provinces, they raise issues of agriculture, and they often want to see greater support and assistance from the state in the form of things such as tractors that they would wish should be supplied or made available rather, and particularly to be placed at places of traditional leaders, and they wish some measure of assistance in the form of fertilizers and seeds so that they can be economically active. They also raise issues of youth unemployment, and they would like to see more and more of their children employed. And in a number of these Imbizos, they've also raised appreciation over some of the employment projects that government has embarked on, such as the presidential employment stimulus, as well as the EPWP. Some of them come there and say, this is what we have been doing in the the public employment program, in closing up potholes and so on. So, Honorable Direko, they raise a number of issues. And this is the one time where I also give members of the executive an opportunity to articulate some of the interventions that they are working on. But quite often, members of the executive do go back to where Imbizos have been held. And the process involves, prior to the Imbizo, there are full and thorough engagements with various sectors of our community, And during the Imbizo, the issues are raised, and post the Imbizo, the members of the executive go back and address specific issues that have been raised. So we have found, or certainly I have found it to be a very comprehensive and thorough process where the engagement with our people is not only on the day, but it is preceded by a thorough engagement with role players. And thereafter, we go back and deal with specific issues. This is one of the real successful processes that government gets involved in. Thank you.
Thank you, the Honorable President. We now move to the Leader of the Opposition to ask a follow-up question.
Mr. President, I've been on the road in the Free State and the Northern Cape to see for myself some of the service delivery failures. The town of Welkom has sewage running through it. Schools, businesses, and churches. Many of the towns go without water for weeks. Mr. President, we both know that the district development model is not going to improve service delivery. Even the ANC in Umgeni voted against it because they know it won't work. We won't fix local government until we acknowledge that what has broken it is cadre deployment. Centralizing power in a cadre-filled state is not the answer. The answer is to appoint capable public servants and hold them accountable. Yet you continue to defend cadre deployment when you know it is the root cause of all of the suffering you see around you. Mr. President, my question is simple. Will you now comply with yesterday's court order to hand over the minutes of the ANC's cadre deployment committee while you were its chairman? Thank you.
Honorable President, you are protected by the rules of this House in that in 1426 it says a supplementary question must arise directly from the original question and the reply given thereto, and may not constitute a new question. Having said that, you can use your discretion. Thank you. The Honorable the President.
Honorable House Chair, thank you very much for clarifying what is relevant and what isn't. Now, I want to start off with the preface of what Honorable Steenhuisen was alluding to. He referred to Welkom, a city or a town that I got to know very well before and now. Welkom is a very typical type of example where things are happening and things are being changed. Welkom, in a way, had been captured by certain entities, 6, I may say, that had various processes of local government outsourced to them, including water treatment, which you now say with the sewage water running down the street. Welkom is a town or a municipality on the move. It is being transformed. Deployed there is a Mayor Mkalipi who is cleaning up, who is making sure that Welkom is repositioned and who is involved in the process of bringing back into the municipality services that had been outsourced unnecessarily, and making sure that as they reposition the town council, they are able to give effective service to our people. Now, in the end, the issue of getting the right people to do the right job is a universal desire that all of us have. We want precisely everybody who is capable to be deployed in the places where they should be to execute the work that they should. And right throughout the country, that is what we are seeking to do. Not only aided and abetted and as suggested by the Auditor General, but it is the norm. And as we professionalize the civil service, that is precisely what we are aiming at, to improve the services that government provides to our people. We need people who have knowledge, who have experience, and who have great capacity. And that is where our local government system is now moving to, not only local government, but more broadly. Yes, it is taking time, as the breakdown also did take its time, but we are rebuilding, we are repositioning, and we are re-enabling government structures to be able to do precisely what the people of South Africa expect. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, Bab Kasak, Chair Chalap. The next follow-up question will come from the Honorable Huneveld.
Thank you, House Chair. Honorable President, the DDM was launched in 2019 with the Ugu District Municipality as one of 6 pilot projects. A DDM profile was done on the Ugu District Municipality in August 2020, stating that the aging infrastructure resulted in a poor service delivery. You visited Ugu District Municipality in November 2021 with a promise of a Building Together campaign under the DDM. In November 2022, the Mayor of the Ugu District addressed the NCOP, highlighting 10 priority projects under the DDM model, and yourself, Honorable President, said that we need solutions, not problems. On September 2022, the Human Rights Commission said that the Ugu water problem, and I quote, "There is no way that the Commission will be happy with the responses to the steps that have been taken, given to these communities have been struggling for years for water. There is no way we can say that the steps taken have been adequate." In March 2023, the Minister of Kokta said that 103 million rand is spent on the planning phase of the DDM pilot projects. So the question, Honourable President, in the light that water is a basic human right, when will the Ugu District water shortage problem be addressed adequately, and will the communities have uninterrupted water through the DDM? Thank you, House Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Yes, the issue of the Ugu municipality is in process of being further discussed, and ways of having it implemented are also being looked at. The Minister of Water and Sanitation is also currently seized with the challenges that the Ugu municipality is facing. It is an urgent challenge. It is amongst those municipalities in KZN that the Ministry of Water and Sanitation is focusing on. And I have been in discussion with the Premier as well as the province as well on this matter. So the challenges, the continued challenges that you are highlighting are matters of important attention. And in doing so, we are actually having very thorough discussions to see how best we can speed up the process of addressing the Ugu municipality problems, because they've been going on for quite a long time, and our communities in that area are really, unhappy and frustrated. And the district development model is the one that is best suited, because we need to cooperate with a number of key role players, both business and other community-based organizations, as well as the municipality itself. So you are raising a problem that I am au fait with, and a problem that is being actively addressed as well. So thank you very much for highlighting it once again.
Thank you. Motlhomphegi Moruti Mishwe, potso e ke ya gago.
Ke a leboga modulasetulo. Since the first district development model, presidential Imbizo in Northwest in March 2022, there have been 8 others, with the 9th one taking place in the Eastern Cape last month. The aim of this DDM presidential Imbizos was to improve service delivery. However, service delivery protests have continued. 6 months after the Northwest presidential Imbizo, there were service delivery protests in 5 areas in that province, which caused difficulties for matriculants writing exams. According to a November 2022 report, the Sidibeng District Municipality took 3 months to pay its health workers and only did so after protest. Mr. President, having heard your reply, will you please tell us where exactly there is sufficient tangible proof that water and sanitation and human settlements, as an example, have been sufficiently addressed since March 2022 as a result of these DDM Imbizos? I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Reverend Meshwe. The process of addressing the needs of our people is not a once-off type of process. It's an ongoing process, and what we have encouraged through utilizing the district development model is the involvement of various sectors within the district. One of the objectives of the district development model is to mobilize all key role players in a district to play a role, be it business, be it traditional leaders, the religious sector, young people, government itself, to play a key role in addressing the challenges that each of our districts face. And in doing so, obviously, we have got to ensure that those interventions that need to be embarked upon by national government indeed are followed through. Now, you cite two very good examples, water and human settlements. And two of these departments have been coming up with additional processes that they themselves need to inaugurate or put into effect to ensure that where there are lapses and weaknesses at the local level, be it at provincial or local level, they are able to intervene and give assistance and support. And they are the real poster departments, if you like, that have been able to bridge this divide and this gap. And where they are now, I'm very satisfied with their ability to be able, through the system that has been set up, to address problems throughout the country, obviously, within the budgeted and fiscally affordable parameters, because we are quite honest to our people as well. We are not able to meet all the challenges because of our fiscal constraints. But where we are able to, for instance, to give you a very good example, and this is one of the issues that our people raise when we go to Imbizos, and we tell them openly that your district municipality or your district has not spent all the money that was budgeted for it. And some of the reasons are because there are capacity constraints, and there are a number of other reasons. Now, the departments at national level are now able to bridge the divide or the challenges and difficulties and address those. Now, there are a number of areas where interventions are being made, and you want me to cite some, for instance, in KZN, where there were blockages in relation to the reticulation of water for some of our key towns. And we've now been able, utilizing this new system that I'm talking about, to be able to give support and assistance to our municipalities. A very good example which grabbed the headlines of our nation was the Rooiwal water treatment area in Hammanskraal in Gauteng. And that too was given rise to precisely by this very archaic way of doing things. We're now resolving that, and we're resolving it actively to make sure that when a municipality has been alerted by national government to address a problem where it lags behind, we are able to nudge it forward. But where it fails, we intervene. We intervene as national government for the interests of our people. So one needs to look at all this as a holistic way in which we are transforming the way we work And the district development model gives us the greater capacity and a very good instrument of being able to do so. So work is underway and the results will be clear to all of us in time as we move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable President. We now move to question number 18, asked by the Leader of the Opposition. The Honorable the President.
Honorable House Chair, the white paper on national rail policy approved by Cabinet in March of last year specifies certain implementation priorities and timeframes in the devolution of passenger rail. Now, there are certain short-term objectives to be achieved by 2024, medium-term objectives up to 2030, and long-term objectives up to 2050. The development of the devolution strategy is one of the short-term interventions which is to be completed by 2024. Now, the white paper makes key pronouncements on the future of urban rail in South Africa. Honorable Steenhuisen is not listening, Honorable House Chair, because he continues to chat. And I do want him to listen because this is his question. The national rail policy makes provision for the assignment of responsibility for managing all rail functions to metropolitan municipalities, including the planning, the funding, the procurement, operations, as well as maintenance of these lines. This will be initiated once the strategy for devolution of urban rail has been concluded and approved. Now, as part of the development of the National Devolution Strategy, the Department of Transport has undertaken consultations with key stakeholders. Now, these include all provincial departments responsible for transport, transport authorities as well. National Treasury is also brought in. All affected metros, the South African Local Government Association, SALGA that is, the Gautrain itself, the Passenger Rail Agency, PRASA, Transnet, the Railway Safety Regulator, commuter forums in all regions, unions in the railway environment, business chambers, you name it. The consultation is of a broad spectrum nature. A national steering committee has been established to guide all major deliverables of the project. Now, the Department of Transport is confident that it is on course to deliver on the 2024 timeframe approved by Cabinet in the white paper that has been put up on the National Rail Policy. So, Honorable Chair, House Chair, work is underway. And it is the type of work that I do trust and hope that even Honorable Steenhuisen, who is the key advocate of the slogan cooperation, will be alive to, rather than pulling in the opposite direction. Thank you, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, the President. The Honorable, the Leader of the Opposition.
We'll get you saying Viva la Devolution by the end of the session, Mr. President. Mr. President, last month the Cape Town taxi strike caused havoc in the lives of millions of Western Cape residents. Commuters, including women and children, were left stranded and had to walk home in the dark under terrible conditions. You spoke earlier about cooperation, yet your police minister, Bheki Cele, and your transport minister, Minister Chikunga, must be held accountable for inflaming the situation and making matters worse rather than better. They openly sided with the lawbreakers rather than with the commuters and those people who are being terrorized and stranded. Minister Chikunga clearly had no clue about the transport laws of her own department. We spoke about the parameters earlier. The parameters were a law and set of regulations passed by this House, which are due to be implemented by the Transport Department and which should be being implemented around the country. So much for respect for the rule of law. The problem now with what you've just said, Mr. President, is that Minister Chikunga has publicly rejected the department's white paper, which supports the devolution of rail to competent metros. It's been proven, however, this can make an enormous difference in the lives of commuters to ensure that they've got reliable, cost-effective transport. Mr. President, how do you intend to get your own minister on board when she has publicly rejected the findings of the white paper, which you yourself say the cabinet has endorsed? Thank you.
The Honorable the President.
Honorable House Chair, I want to deny that the minister has repudiated what has been put out. What she has said and stressed is that the timeframes that have been set need to be adhered to as consultation happens. And one of the reasons why I outlined the number of, if you like, consultants, those entities that will be consulted, is that that process has to be gone through so that we arrive at a conclusion that is all-encompassing, where everyone feels that this is the right way to go. The people themselves also have an interest. Here in the Western Cape, we've had to consult almost block by block with people who have an interest in how this policy will be outlined. For instance, many other people have been living right near or on the rail line itself, and those have had to be consulted. Now, what the minister is saying is that we need to complete this whole engagement and consultation process, and the timeframes that are set out, which are also repeated, give effect to that. So the minister is very clear that we need to go through the various processes that have been set out. So if one listens to her very carefully, you will hear that she says, let's go through the process. And once we've gone through that process, we'll be able to arrive at an outcome that is more satisfactory for all of us. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you, the President. The next follow-up question will be asked by the Honorable Lesoma.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair and the Honorable the President of South Africa. If you may say, just to note that devolution of the passenger rail service is not related to disruptions that can be caused by taxi strike or any other protests. What progress has the government made on Operation Bekela for this resumption of limited rail service for Nyanga, Philippi, Ekayelisha, Elanga, to ensure working people have low-cost rail transport, as this have been impacted by weaknesses of the City of Cape Town and the Western Cape Provincial Government, which is failing to deal with the land occupation on the rail lines, haven't been given the money or the budget by the government, national government. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable the President.
Honorable House Chair, there is quite a lot of progress that we are making, which I alluded to in my reply in chief, in relation to Operation Bekela. Our consultation process has been quite thorough, has been quite involved in all those areas to open the rail lines, and we are doing it section by section. And I think we've done 2 now. And in the process, we've had to move and respectively move thousands of households. I think we are now left with 891 households on a particular line where, in full cooperation and consultation with them, we are going to move them. And this is being done with their full agreement having identified precisely where they should also go and live. So Operation Bekela is really proceeding well. And it's just as well that as a government, we are that consultative, because we don't bulldoze our way in and just move people. We actually talk to them and almost door to door and ensure that they buy into this. And from just the top of my head, I think we've consulted well over 6,000 households, and we've been able to get the cooperation of some 4,000 or so, and with some still remaining to be finalized. And we've been doing it line by line. And you mentioned Philippi as well. That too is another line that is also being mooted and for opening up. People had built houses right on the rail line, right adjacent. And in order to open the rail, we've had to do proper consultation. And so this for me is quite a fulfilling process that shows that we're a government that cares, that has compassion, that even as people are confronted by serious challenges of a lack of accommodation, where they've put up homes in emergency situations, we are able to consult them and able to get them to move to alternative accommodation. So work is also underway in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhlonishwa ilunga elihloniphekileko lendlu baba uSithole. Isikhathi ngesakho.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable President, the IFP stood before your cabinet calling for the professionalization of the taxi industry over the last few years without any actionable commitment from the government to meet with all stakeholders and set standards for the industry where both passengers, owners, and drivers will benefit. It is not a secret that the majority of working class people in South Africa have to rely on public transport, and thus modes of public transport need to have agreed upon routes and standard of operation. I would like to know, Honorable President, whether the government will assist striking metros with resources and fund to bring about a safety passengers rail network while maintaining the principle of devolution of power. I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Honorable Sithole, thank you. Yes, government in executing its transport policy and also in relation to rail is willing, prepared, and able to cooperate and give all the assistance to provinces as well as to local government. This is an important area, and you may well want to know what it is that we are also doing with the taxi industry. We are also involved in thoroughgoing discussions with the taxi industry as to the role that they themselves should be playing as we move on, because much as it may seem like the interests are conflictual, in fact, the interests are complementary. And that's precisely what the discussions are also all about, so that there is a full buy-in by all role players as we support the whole transport industry, so that as our people utilize these modes of transport, they have a sense of safety, and they also have a sense that this is being done in a cooperative way, and it is also being done in a way where we are able to work together, all of us, to advance their interests. So what you are saying will be done, and it is being done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Barrelet Hendricks, die geleentheid is nou Isen.
Baie dankie. Honorable President, can you trust a DA-run province and a DA-run Cape Town Metro who want to use the control of our railways to promote
Honorable
political
members.
policy of federalism, which is non-compliant with the constitution. They return money to the fiscus that was meant to pay for land occupied by residents living dangerously along railway lines, preventing the Minister of Transport to provide rail services. They don't want your minister to look good. So will you trust them? Remember, imperialists always started a railroad in the days of the Wild West. And by the way, a sheriff is already appointed, which just may do a good job keeping us in Cape Town safer. Actually, I'm wearing DA colors today. Your response to Honorable Steenhuisen's question, devolving rail powers is alarming, but we will study it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The Rule 1425 says a member may make a statement or express an opinion. Yes, Honorable Steenhuisen.
Madam Speaker, it's a very serious thing in a parliament to accuse a party of not wanting to keep the president's life safe. It borders on treason.
But
hang on.
Okay.
I would say that the president is a lot safer on Cape Town's rail than on Mr. Guamanga's
Okay, that's not a
exploding
point
roads
of
in
order.
Joburg.
That's not a point of order, Honorable Steenhuisen. The Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. I have had the desire to ride on the trains here in the Western Cape, in Cape Town, and I hope that desire is fulfilled soon, because I would like to see the improvements that are being made, and so I shall ride and may even invite you, Honorable Steenhuisen, to come and join me. Honorable Hendricks, it's not a question of whether one trusts a particular political party. It is the system that we set in place that we've got to trust. Because if we all operate within a system that we all agree on, we are then able to know that the process itself will ensure that the people act in accordance with that system. I often say it is a PSP. It is people, process, system, and process. So once you get the system right and you position people in that system, you will then be able to get a good outcome, which is it will process itself well. So I don't ascribe that to whether we trust them or not. It is all of us as South Africans must trust the systems that we are putting in place. I do believe that we are, as we improve everything in our country, we are seeking to set up systems that whoever gets into those positions is able to work in accordance with that system. It's almost like putting a rail line, that whatever type of train will move according to the rail line that will have been put in place. So thank you very much for raising the question, and thank you very much, Honorable House Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. That concludes the questions to the President, and we thank the President for the, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, honorable members. You may be seated. Honorable members, I request you to stand and wait for the chair and the maids to leave the chamber. That concludes the business for the day, and the House is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.